Just ask the folks at A-plus schools. A-plus schools, I think we're all familiar with them. They are an independent community advocate for public education and improvement that publishes a yearly report to the community on public school progress in Pittsburgh. A-plus schools' most current infant report notes that even though the racial achievement gap narrowed by 0.3 percentage points in math and 1.8 percentage points in reading in the Pittsburgh public schools during the last 2 years, the gap itself was still 28.7% in reading and 27% in math for the year 2009 through 2010. A-plus Schools Executive Director referred to these gaps as stubborn. I would go a step further than calling them stubborn. I would call them criminal. Criminal because their impact is both far-reaching and multi-generational. Lower academic achievement generally correlates with higher rates of high school suspension, greater likelihood of being retained in grade, less likely of graduating from high school, and even less likely of enrolling in and graduating from an institution of higher learning. Obviously, that impacts and increases the higher unemployment rates, lowers incomes, and greater likelihood of incarceration. And that's according to the earlier report that was put out by the Council of Great City Schools. In other words, academic achievement not only impacts who does and does not graduate from high school and college, it also helps determine one's access to choices and opportunities, and whether one's life and the lives of one's children ultimately will be lived with meaning, with purpose, and with dignity. That's why this past May, the Urban League of Greater Pittsburgh convened 107 African American leaders who represent the region's corporate, nonprofit, government, religious, civic, and community sectors in support of Black youth achievement and academic success. Thus was born the African American Achievement Trust, AAAT as we call it, which is a coalition of local African American leaders whose mission is to build a culture of academic achievement and equity and excellence for Pittsburgh's youth. The group's vision statement that is called from the work of 6 different committees, and there was a table out there that was soliciting you to consider joining one of those committees. It reads, "Out of deep and abiding love for our children, families, and communities, the African American Achievement Trust is committed to the advocacy for excellence in education and equity in outcomes in Greater Pittsburgh. The work of the trust is ongoing, and it includes engaging, mobilizing, and supporting students, parents, and other stakeholders, improving in-school and out-of-school learning opportunities, and research improving best practices for engaging African American youth, all directed toward the goals of academic equity and excellence." Just this past Wednesday, the Trust sponsored a symposium featuring the nationally renowned Dr. Dale Christopher, the Vice President of Program Strategy at the W.K. Kellogg Foundation, whose mission encompassing investing in programs that promote racial equity. The efforts of the African American Achievement Trust exemplify what it means to confront the fierce urgency of now. To meet the moment, to demand a better future for all of God's children. And those efforts are part and parcel of the Urban League of Greater Pittsburgh's 93-year legacy of enabling African Americans to secure economic self-reliance, parity in power, and civil rights. So too is the Urban League of Greater Pittsburgh's charter school, which is celebrating its 13th proud year of educating tomorrow's leaders. I am pleased to report that the Pennsylvania Department of Education presented our charter school with the Keystone Achievement Award, which recognizes sustained academic achievement as increased by a school's performance on the Pennsylvania system of school assessment.
It was during that period when I was 17 and a half that I saw my life flash in front of me like no other way. Like, it really was as clear as the driven snow here today that if I don't change my life around, I was going to die. And often we don't use, I say 17 and a half. As we get older, we lose those halves. And as we get into our 30s and 40s, we lose that second number too. We're just in our 30s and our 40s. But had I not been 17 and a half, my story would have been written differently. Again, I always did well in school, and at the time I was hanging out with the wrong crowd, and that's why for the young people understand that people you choose to hang around is of utmost importance. So if you're hanging around 5 and 6 people that's misdirected, it won't be long before you become the next one. I was always friends with Rameck and George. We went to University High School together, and we had to take public transportation to get to the school. And at the end of the day, we would go back home to our respective parts of Newark. And so I was cool when I was with them. I did well. I made sure I got my grades and had fun. We had fun. We really had a lot of fun. And then when I left them, I went home to another group of guys who were all about holding down the street corner, And as my mother always say, nothing good happens on the street corner. And so we're standing on the street corner before, Idle Minds is a devil's workshop. We're standing there and we find ourselves, getting ourselves into trouble. And so at 17 and a half, I hung out with a group of guys and we committed an armed robbery. And it was then that, when the judge talked about these different types of programs that dealt with many years in prison, and I wasn't a fan of none of those. But fortunately, because of my academics and because I had a part-time job, I had a 2-year suspended sentence. And so this transpired between my junior year and my senior year of high school. So when I came back my senior year of high school, the only grade that was on my report card was an A, nothing less. And I got all A's my senior year of high school. And so the way that things happen, you gotta sometimes in life, in order to understand success, you got to experience failures. So I understood that if I wanted to be successful, that this failure that I went through, I had to understand that and learn from it, because you're not a fool if you fail, and you're not a fool if you fail. If you could kind of consider yourself to be a fool if you fell twice at the same thing, making those same mistakes over and over again. So had I gone back out there and did the same thing again, then I might want to call myself, not that smart. But I made sure that was the last time when the judge said, next time you come back here, make sure you bring your toothbrush. I said, don't worry about it. You won't see me again. And ironically, I did go back to that same courthouse again. But it was 15 years later as an expert witness in an emergency medicine case. So it was a different hat. So the way that the pact began, because everybody often say, how did you guys make this pact? You've written books, New York Times bestseller, you've been on Oprah, the Essence Awards, the Today Show. Oprah gave me her number, although she changed it once she gave it to me. I was definitely planning on stalking her, there was no doubt about that. I was going to commit that act. But nonetheless, it was our friendship, and it was nothing methodical that took place. It was just one day, and we were in class. We had the same classes together, and this was really during our junior year that we made this pact. We were cutting class. It was second period. And we had a substitute teacher, and we're like 15 years old, 16 years old, substitute teacher, second period. That's a great opportunity to cut class, right? It wasn't the smartest thing to do, but the end results turned out to be brilliant, I think. So we each raised our hands and made up different excuses to get out of class. I had to go to the bathroom. George had to go call his mother. Rameck had to go hand in a report for another class. So, the substitute teachers, some care, but most don't. They're like, whatever, just go. Take a friend with you. Just go ahead and so we got out of class and we huddled together and we're like, all right, let's go to the gym and play basketball. Because back then, it was a recess at second period, so what do boys do? They go to the gym. So we're making our way to the gym. We're walking down the hallway, and we didn't know that there was a substitute security guard, but this substitute security guard wanted to make a difference. He wanted to be somebody, which I'm glad he did, because he started to see us in the hallway and gave chase, and he told us to stop and yelled at us to stop where we were, because these three guys in the hallway, no pass in their hands, so they must be up to no good, right? So he's yelling at us to stop, and we have selective hearing. We don't hear him. He's like, stop, you three, stop right here. And we're like, nobody's talking to us. So all of a sudden you can hear his keys rattling in his pocket as he's picking up pace. And so we start to pick up pace, and he's yelling for us to stop, and we're still not stopping because we don't hear him. And so he's running down, and we're running, and it's a full-out sprint. We're just running, trying to outrun the security guard. So our hope was if we just could make it to the corner, turn the corner, there was a door that led to the locker room, and we could go down into the locker room and come up on the other side of the locker room and assimilate with the class inside the gym. So we were, this guy couldn't keep up with us. We were 15, he was old, he was like 25, so he was chasing us. So we were full out sprinting, full speed ahead, and then right before we were about to turn the corner, somebody appeared in front of us, and it was the principal. Now, she should have been in her office doing some work. I don't know why she was out in the hallways. It was second period. I noticed it was a parent or two she needed to be on the phone with at that time of day. So now we're sandwiched between the principal and the security guard, and just like a ray of light, just like that door that just opened. Because the library, I don't know about your schools, but the library in our school was always closed. Like they always had the door locked for some reason. But today the door was open. It was like a ray of light just shining through. So we dodged into the library, and it so happened there was a seminar ongoing about careers in health and science being offered by Seton Hall University. So we all, assimilated and with the class that was there and grabbed a seat. And the security guard and the principal looked in and said, well, they're probably better served here. They may learn something. So we sat down, and I remember asking the student, what the program was about. He's like, oh, it's about, helping minorities go to college and become doctors and dentists and scientists and everything. And I said, doctors, dentists, and scientists? Like, I don't know anything about those. I know about pediatrician, I know the Cosby Show, and Trapper John M.D. for old heads, what Trapper John M.D. is. So I said, but I don't know much about it being a doctor. And plus I was working at McDonald's, and they already promoted me to crew chief, and they said the assistant manager was next. So I already had my future. I was and back then I think Calvin used to have this commercial with Calvin. He used to work at McDonald's, and I was like, okay, like Calvin, so I'm good. My future was bright in the burger world. So I was like, I don't know about this college thing. Plus, nobody in my family ever went to college. Only a few of us graduated high school. So, I felt like I was achieving something by graduating high school, which, is not true, but at the same time, I thought so. So I put my head down, went to sleep. Rameck listened in because he wanted to be a teacher, and doctors and teachers, they do the same thing. They help people. They help people to become better. And then George listened in because he wanted to. So how did George get this idea of becoming a dentist where we were in a land of just so much crime and despair? It happened one day when he had braces put on his teeth when he was 12, 13 years old. And the dental resident who worked on his mouth took 5 minutes of his time just teaching George just little things, the different structures, the enamel, the dentine, the locations, the name, the central incisors, the molars, the premolars, the canine. So when George came back for his repeat visits, he would say, okay, George, what's tooth number 8? And he's like, I told you last week, tooth number 8 is what? And George like the central incisor. So by having that sort of dialogue, not going out of his way, just doing his job, those 5 minutes of his time changed 3 people's lives.
These kids kids all across the country are using all kinds of technology, Skype and Facebook, and really get to motivate them. But the kids that I see locally trying to break that way of thinking that they had to help them sort of break out of this fantasy that they're in now. It's like these kids are walking in a music video, and they're not thinking about their future. Their behavior is not in line with them walking towards a bright future. And I know all of you guys want a bright future. There's no way that you don't sometimes think about having a nice house, enjoying the things that you might see on television. If I can't speak for all of you. I don't know if you come from the projects like I did, but when I had it bad, I had those kind of those thoughts, and all of you guys can achieve that. And we want you guys to really believe that in your heart. You can have it. The surest way to get it is through education. The surest way to change your quality of life is through education. And we want you guys to understand that, believe it. You can rap, you can sing, you can play sports, but those things are such a long shot. You're more likely to walk down the street and get struck by lightning than you are with being successful and making a career out of any of those endeavors. So we want you to kind of get in on the sure shot. The thing is you're more likely to be one of us than you are LeBron James or Lil Wayne or Wiz Khalifa or anything like that. So we don't want you to find yourself putting all of your eggs in those baskets, because when that basket drops, you're kind of going to have a bunch of scrambled eggs, and that's not fun. You guys have your future in your hands, and if you mold it properly and take education seriously, as hard and as cliche as that sounds, as corny as that may sound to you at this point, you have to kind of figure out a way to do it. You have to first start by taking education seriously. Really start now. You may not have, you may be in the 9th or 10th grade, and this might be the first time you've heard it from someone that you might relate to, that you might start to get those wheels turning, and maybe you can do it. So when you get into school Monday, start right then.
That's right.
Communities. Right. You can't just throw the seeds down, because it ain't gonna grow. We have to nurture our young people. We have to get out there and nurture our young people. We all have to do it, because we are in blighted communities. Our homes are broken. We gotta fix them together the best way we know how. We are a race who knows how to improvise. So let's get out there and improvise and help our young people, because we have to. Because if you just put those grass seeds out there, it's not going to grow. My half-brother was a grass seed that nobody nurtured. And he was out there, he was just as smart as I was. I mean, he was smarter. We used to call him a brainiac in school. But then he wanted to be tough. We used to pick on him and stuff, because I was good with my hands, so I was good. He wasn't as good with his hands at first. But then he got picked on. And so nobody was nurturing him. Nobody was trying to help him figure it out. And so he had to do what he knew best. And so he started getting in the gym, and he said, forget school and this, that, and the third. And before you know it, he had dropped out of school. And he started, hustling, because that's what we do. That's what he thought we were supposed to do. And just like that pen that's still on the ground, because it's like I'm a scientist by nature, so it's like a law of nature. Like, you can't break laws of nature. So that's why that pen is still on the ground, because I didn't pick it up. Like, it's real simple. It is real simple.